Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Season 4 of the Call It Anything podcast. I'm Jack, joined by
Mr. Solis.
And as you can see the date, as you can see the time of year, we are here not to discuss any pay-per-views going on, not to discuss any sort of news. We are here for one reason and one reason only, our top 10 wrestling matches of the year. But before we get into that, sir, how have you been since the last time we saw each other?
I've been swell, Jack. This time last year, I had COVID. A year later, we're staving it away. We're keeping ourselves clean, healthy, ready for the winter break. School's still in session for me for 3 more arduous days, but we're gonna make it. How about you, Jack?
I've been doing pretty well. As I was telling Mr. Solis, finals week, personally, it's not a thing of overconfidence. Now that the grades are out, I feel like, I'm happy with myself. I nailed it, put in a lot of hard work throughout the semester, and I'm glad it shows in the grade book. And other than that, I've just been real excited to not only get a break, but to get back into things, as I was telling Mr. Solis, and as my dad was telling him, I started getting back more into the content for my other podcast, where, I finally put out the video for walking an album a day, because I had planned it out from the moment I hit 100 days, but I finally put that video out. Glad to see people are enjoying it, and like I promised in that video, I got a whole lot more coming out. As I was telling Mr. Solis, there's a match on this list that will potentially turn into a whole sort of argumentative essay, if you want to say, of why I think it's better than a certain other installment of said match. But other than that, I've been doing pretty well, and I to be completely honest, I've just been eagerly awaiting this time of year, because I always enjoy just coming right here at the very end of the year, spend some time with Mr. Solis talking about wrestling.
And I'll tell you what, Jack, as the years have progressed since we started doing this, the wrestling's only gotten better. So this opportunity to reflect and reminisce, we just have so much more to reminisce about.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the biggest example of that, and it's not to like fault on any company, but I think the biggest example of this was the fact that, kind of a spoiler for my list, I don't think there's a single TV match on my list, where compared to last year, I had, I think, about 2 or 3, and that's not to say that the quality of those matches weren't great, but it just kind of goes to show how much is improving, that, like, especially for the viewer experience wise, these past couple, or this past year, we've kind of seen these companies starting to learn that, like, how to condense these pay-per-views to not only give them more time to be better, but so that we aren't left kind of dragging on with certain matches, or feeling burnt out by certain matches.
I won't say everyone's learned that lesson, Jack, but clearly somebody else is running the show at one particular company. I'll give you a hint. Get it? 3 H's, hint.
Yeah, and that's another thing, too. So much has changed from the ending point of last year till now.
Goodness gracious.
Man. But with that all being said, why don't we just get right into it? Sir, to start off, any honorable mentions you want to give?
I have, yes. Let's see. A Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest at Backlash. I thought it was a moment, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Cracked my top 10. It had a ton of story, all the schmaz with Carlito, Salvo Vega, LWO, Judgment Day. It didn't make it, but I thought of it. And I also have written here, dedicated to your dad, the Bloodline Civil War at Money in the Bank. The only Roman Reigns match where the Bloodline didn't interfere, because they were all participants of the tag team match. And that's when Jay pinned Roman for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, that was quite a crazy... I remember that crazy moment. Not only that, it took place out in England, so it was very much loud. It was very much loud compared to a lot of the American crowds.
How about you? Any honorable mentions that don't show your hand and spoil anything?
Um, I'll give a couple shouts from various companies. Just to give a sort of fair share. John Moxley versus El Desperado from New Japan Independence Day Night 2 was a great
Yeah,
one.
I didn't see that one, but I know it was good.
Yeah, that one was pretty great. When New Japan and Noah did their collaboration Wrestle Kingdom, like I think
Uh,
they called it literally Wrestle Kingdom Night 2. It was like in the middle of January. Again,
yeah.
El Desperado had a pretty cool like technical match. Like he was really working the limb of one of the Noah guys called Yohei. I thought that was a
Yeah.
pretty good one. From WWE, Kevin Owens and Sammy dethroning the Usos at WrestleMania Night 1. Um, Pretty great tag match. Doesn't make my list, but I obviously want to shout it out because of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, two guys who I've long supported. It was nice to see them get that big moment in the main event of WrestleMania.
Heck yeah.
And then Stardom, I can just go on for days, and I will do that in a separate video. And then AEW, I think the ones I just quickly want to shout. The trios match between House of Black and the Elite at Revolution at the start of the year was pretty great.
Ooh.
Bryan Danielson's whole run leading up to Revolution, where he was just having TV matches against, Konosuke Takeshita, Bandito, Roosh. That was all pretty great. Obviously, the Iron Man match against MJF.
Yeah.
There was just a lot of great wrestling this year.
Yeah. Also, honorable mention to everything Will Ospreay did. I picked one of his matches, but the guy has his own top 10 list to contend with. If he just had an incredible year.
Yeah, definitely was a very frequent name in Wrestler of the Year conversations for many. Just an insane run for him.
Yes. So what do you say, Jack? I go first. That means you got the last word on number 1.
All right, fine by me, sir. What is your top 10? And if you've been listening for a while, you always know to come to expect a sort of gimmick out of number 10 from Mr. Solis.
Number 10, we go into the G1 climax, Jack. And it's not, I'm sure, the participants you think. I'm picking Chase Owens versus Gabriel Kidd. It's Bullet Club versus Bullet Club. What's going to happen? Well, Gabriel Kidd's going to come out and beat the crud out of Chase Owens before the bell even rings, before they enter the ring. They go into the crowd. He planches off the stage. He's destroying Chase Owens, making a statement for himself in his debut match in the G1. And you know what happens next?
What happens?
Chase beats him.
Oh, wow.
I can't stop thinking about it since the summer, Jack. Gabriel Kidd comes out with all the fire in the world. He's throwing Chase all over the place. And when they finally get in the ring, the sly veteran sneaks out a win. And he tells Kevin Kelly at the ringside, I haven't been Bullet Club under like 4 different leaders over the last 10 years for nothing. I loved it. Gabriel Kidd got showed up immediately. My number 10.
Oh, man. That's hilarious. For me, my number 10, I have sort of like, I'm somewhat cheating a bit, but I got like a 10A, 10B sort of situation just for the sake of like, depending on how people want to view things, So I have the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite Anarchy in the Arena from AEW Double or Nothing. The reason I have it here is basically because not only is the stipulation as like a whole, it's crazy, it's chaotic and all that, but the one thing I've been saying about this match all year is that it's influenced for its placement here because of the fact that I got to watch this match with a group of friends who, know nothing of wrestling, but they decided to tune in with me. And, the first couple of hours of Double or Nothing this year weren't the greatest, so they were already kind of getting tuned out and disinterested. But the moment this match came on, they had some of the funniest reactions I've seen to all this stuff. There was Claudio swinging one of the Young Bucks in the concessions. There was the Moxley, of course, bleeding all over the place, which could be said for any of his matches this year. There was the exploding super kick, the foot into the thumbtacks, the mouth full of thumbtacks super kick, their reactions to it were, absolutely hilarious. It completely elevates my view. But if you want to disqualify it for that reason, then at number 10 here, if I want to give a 10B, I would give it to Gunther versus Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania Night 2, because, I was honestly torn between this one and his solo match with Drew at SummerSlam. But I think ultimately what makes me put this one here is the triple threat nature of it all, where you have Gunther having to defend his title against two credible threats to his title reign. I don't really like this kind of a gap at like the end of the match, or like towards the end of the match, where Gunther spends a lot of time not involved. But I also understand that they gave that time for Drew and Sheamus to tell their story beat of like throughout the entire match. They're trying to balance their friendship and their desire to win this championship.
Jack, I am almost going to fall out of my chair. I thought your 10A and 10B were going to be like two Blackpool Combat Club like elite multi-man matches that you couldn't decide between because they kind of are similar, right? You're like, I got the Anarchy in Arena and I got Forbidden Door. Like I thought that's what you were going to do, but you didn't. Kudos for that. I'm watching with my friends. Kudos to all the spot fest that Anarchy in the Arena match was. And what a turn. You had me in the first half, and then you go and throw in that WrestleMania triple threat, which I'm going to tell you is on my list, and it's a lot higher than 10. How dare you, sir? But I'll agree about that triple threat thing, right? It's why I didn't put the Kevin Owens Sami Zayn tag team main event, because I thought they did that even worse. Kevin Owens is out forever. Sami Zayn's out forever, right? Until they're not.
Yeah, definitely. And, I had to make up for last year's mistake of not having a Gunther match on there, so...
Oh, my.
I have to have it here,
So is Gunther only here in the 10B spot?
As far as I can remember, I believe so. But, to not anger people, don't worry. I do believe that, like, I looked, obviously, for my other end of year list, I was looking throughout it and I was like, when you're talking about who was the champion of the year, there's no debate. It was Gunther all the way through. That man had quite a crazy run. I just think this one could definitely be a bit higher, but I just liked this one especially, which is why I wanted to give it a shout at 10 as a more sort of, in a sense, quote-unquote, credible number 10,
Yeah.
But yeah,
you deserve a chop. You deserve a chop for that. That was a lot of politicking, trying to get yourself out of trouble. You got a chop coming your way.
All right, how about your number 9, sir?
Number 9, we're going to keep it short and sweet. I was there in person, so just like you, Jack, this one's got a special place in my heart. Probably wouldn't be on this list if I wasn't there. It's Timothy Thatcher versus Josh Barnett at Bloodsport here in LA on WrestleMania weekend. Timothy Thatcher gets the win over Josh Barnett, right? And that whole crowd. I don't think I've ever seen, and I'll never see again, that many Timothy Thatcher fans in one place. And he just was soaking that moment in, right? I'm so excited for the guy. It was a hard fought match. If it was short, because that's what Bloodsport is. But I cleaned up this list of a lot of things I saw live that weekend, and I said the one I'm going to keep is this Bloodsport main event.
Nice. For my number 9, I got a sort of surprise pick, because I don't think anyone would really think of it on the radar. But as far as tag team matches this year, I think my favorite has to be ABC versus Subculture from Impact Under Siege.
Oh my, we're at Impact.
Yeah, I obviously don't keep as as much attention on Impact, as other people do. But I to tell you the honest truth, I can't even remember what it was about this show that I was checking it out for. But one way or another, I ended up watching this match, and it's honestly probably my favorite men's tag match of the year. Without a doubt, I just enjoyed the work. Personally, I didn't feel tag wrestling was as great this year as other years. And that's because, a lot of companies, for whatever reason, due to injuries, booking, just wasn't the strongest. But ABC, Ace Austin and Chris Bay have been a tag team that I've, through either highlights or actually watching their matches in Impact, was quite fond of their work. And I think this match is the best of it because, Subculture, Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster, they obviously have that flashy, high velocity sort of style. And then the ABC as a whole is just very fluid with their tag work. They obviously have great character work, and there's a lot of great spots. And the one thing that also really elevates this match for me is just the different spots where, like, you're almost convinced that this is the finish, and then the match somehow finds a way to kick into a gear after each one of those sort of false finishes. It's not too false finishy to where the point of, like, losing the sake of believability, but it's enough that, like, it keeps you, like, intrigued with the match until its very end.
Nice. Right on. Really glad to hear you shout these guys out.
Yeah.
Right on. My number 8, here we go. I'm going to piggyback off you, Jack. You shouting out Impact for all the neat things. And 8, soon to be TNA again, right?
Yeah.
My number 8 involves a man that had a really good match in October for Impact, but I'm not going to pick that match because it lacked a story. It was good for the moment, right? But I'm going to pick Mike Bailey's match instead from the Best of the Super Junior 30 tournament against Hiromu Takahashi. Because he beats Hiromu Takahashi, Jack, in his debut in that tournament. So just like Gabriel Kidd trying to show the world who he is, right? Mike Bailey gets a platform just like that, and it works for him. It was a hard-hitting affair, and I was really excited they let him pin the champion. He doesn't go on to win the thing, I don't think. I forget. Ooh, it's been a long year, but it was a great match regardless.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy to hear, especially because all that comes to my mind is, like, the past couple of years when you hear, like, you and I talking about, like, the junior division in Japan, and we're always, like, shouting out other names, and then at the very end, it's like almost in a whisper, we both say to each other, it's probably Hiromu still winning this match, though. Or winning this tournament, or winning the belt back,
Did Master Wato win this year?
I think it was. I think Titan was also in the finals, the guy from
MLL. Yeah. I what I wrote in my notes here? The tournament peaked early. Like, it was a real good hot start, and then it, meandered. But that's my number 8. Mike Bailey versus Hiromu Takahashi.
All right. For my number 8, I'm going to piggyback off of the reasoning behind your number 9, and that is this match is influenced by the environment because of the fact that I was in attendance for it. I have at number 8 El Hijo de Vikingo versus Commander from Ring of Honor's Supercard of Honor.
I was there as well.
Yeah. To me, the way I think about this match, the way I wrote it down was like being there for this match was probably what it felt like being there in person to watch Keith Lee versus Dominik Dijakovic at TakeOver Portland back in 2020 because this was just some of the craziest wrestling I've ever seen. The fan experience of being there in person adds to it, And the one thing I will say that definitely adds to this match's placement that I can understand why other people wouldn't place it, either as high or in the top 10, is the fact that I had maybe only seen one, at most 2 matches from either man going into it, so their arsenal of attacks is completely brand new to me. I can understand if someone who's seen a lot of matches from these two might not, or they might be used to it, they might not be surprised by what they do in this match, but to someone who was completely brand new to both men, it was just an absolutely crazy match, the pure athleticism of it all, the fluidity of it all, the way they were able to do a lot of their moves without wasting too much time setting up certain ones. I know a lot of times in other matches, now after seeing matches of theirs afterwards, they can have those moments, but this one it was like everything kind of came together perfectly where there wasn't any sort of mess ups, there weren't, super long times of, a man standing there waiting to take the move, it's like everything came together perfectly, and being there live was just very fun.
Agreed, and well put, sir. Nice. Hey, for my number 7, I got a couple of luchadors to shout out as well. But I'm bringing us, Jack, to the land of the WWE. And I'm talking about Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio, WrestleMania Night 1 in LA. It's like a showcase of what WWE does better than anyone, which is like the character-driven entrances, like Dom's stupid "I'm coming from prison" entrance, right? To Ray's almost stupider "I'm riding with Snoop Dogg in the slow rider to go beat up my son" in front of a bunch of people. The family involvement on the front row, the LWO and the Judgment Day stuff. I shouted out in the Bad Bunny thing, right? Like, it's just such a schmoz fest. And it was so good. And, you look at where Dom is now, you look where Judgment Day is now. It's like wild to think that this is where we were in April, you know?
Yeah.
They've all come a long way, right? And I look back and I think, if I look at 2023 and the wrestling scene and what I enjoyed, I got to give it to Ray versus Dominic.
Nice, sir. Not to make any jokes about it, but is this also the match where Ray had 3 different entrance themes?
That's the one. It was the Viva La Raza, and then it was his own.
I think it was like something from Snoop Dogg. Then it was Eddie's. Then it was his theme.
That's why I'm like, the Dom thing is like cringy, and then the Ray thing was almost cringier.
Yeah, the other thing I also remember, and this isn't me trying to take away from the match, because that was a great match with great story and especially build to it, because how long had we been waiting for this match, But I also remember the cinnamon toast the sponsorship. But yeah, that's a great shelter. That's a great match, like I said, with a great build to it. My number 7, we're taking it to the world of Stardom. Sir, earlier you said, I would have to eat a chop for Gunther only being at 10. But can I interest you in some kicking?
Okay, tell me about this kicking.
So, for this one, it takes place in Stardom's 5-star Grand Prix tournament. Their version of the G1, basically, round-robin tournament. And Night 1 was honestly one of the best shows of the year for me. They had so many great opening matches for this tournament. But none was better than my number 7, which was Suzu Suzuki versus Shuri, simply because of the fact that the kicking in this match is on the level of a chop of Gunther to me.
I see.
Absolute thuds you hear from the kick laying into either the back or the chest. I was visibly getting like almost uncomfortable in a sense. Like I was genuinely like flinching at a lot of these kicks where I was like, they're not holding back on each other. This isn't like they were truly laying in the kicks to one another. And it's funny because the match starts off chaotic with Suzuki, doing a whole bunch of moves, taking it to the outside. But then the moment Shuri gets her back in the ring, it's like she just starts kicking her and laying in these like stiff strikes. There's even a point where Suzuki's like just laying in with forearm strikes. And then afterwards, Shuri's just like, well, you got your forearm strikes. I'm just going to start kicking you. And I'm telling you, Shuri's kicks are not only as hard, but as essential to her moveset as Gunther's chops are. Like, the sheer sound is like bone chilling to me. And that's my reason for having it here, because it's like, it's like a Gunther match. It's brutality without needing excessive like violence or weaponry. It's just straight up, I'm going to kick you as hard as I can.
Who wins?
I believe Shuri wins, and it's funny, the final line I wrote in my notes, I was like, the final sequence is one of the best of the year, as both women empty their entire arsenals, all for the prize of 2 points.
Dang. Wow.
So just like the G1, they go all out just for the sake of trying to get as many points in this tournament, and that's what adds to it to me.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome to hear, sir. So now we're at number 6. I'll tell you what, Jack, my list, I really knew it was at the top. I really knew it was at the bottom. When it comes to the middle, it's where I spent the most time. and I know that I'm going to name a match that maybe had a better sequel that maybe you'll tell me about a little bit. But at my number 6, I'm giving it to Swerve Strickland and his match against Hangman Adam Page at Wrestle Dream. I think, Jack, I was really impressed with that match. That was a sleeper, right? I tuned in for a lot of other matches, and I was really impressed with this one. I think I actually watched it twice. And, and I both have talked about the importance of a finish or the booking and the winner. This one got it right, Yeah. Prince Nana's there. Like, Swerve's so good. But Prince Nana, just adding that little bit that your dad hates. You're like, why is that guy helping a man in his prime? He does, Jack, and he's even the reason why the match even continues because Hangman had him beat.
Yeah.
The stomp on the apron, oof, right?
Yeah.
And I think, Jack, AEW has lost its way in a big way in 2023. I think this rivalry, this match, and maybe its successor, really, I think, captures what made it swell last year. Two originals going at it. Something that I think they need to get back to at a company level.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And, some people might see it as, like, disingenuous, but its exclusion from this list is solely for the fact that I didn't want any repeats of, like, either...
names,
from similar names, or, like, similar sort of stipulation matches, I just wanted to keep things as fresh, but yeah... Absolutely great match. I remember absolutely loving that one, and like you said, the whole feud between these two has been absolutely amazing. And yeah, you might see it come into play later. We'll see. Don't want to spoil too much from the list. So for my number 6 pick, we're staying in the realm of Stardom. It is the final tag match of this list for me. It was between Natsupoi and Sayori Ano versus Suzu Suzuki. I think this is the only name that repeats. And Mai Sarah. To me, this was just simply some of the most fun and innovative tag matches like that I've seen in quite some time. The speed that these 4 women work at was absolutely amazing, and it's also the fact that they're able to still remain so fluid and concise with all their maneuvers throughout it. And then you have some fun sort of contrasts where Ano and Suzuki are like more like they can work a sort of higher paced style, but they're the type to go strike for strike, while Natsupoi and May, they're sort of that higher speed sort of style that Stardom brings. The offense throughout this tag match is very unique. It's very innovative at times. The way I put it, if I were to try and describe the moves they do in this match, even with using wrestling terminology, it would sound like a bunch of gibberish, because that's how difficult it is to describe the moves they were doing in this match. To me, like I said, it's just going to leave you wondering if you can even believe what you just saw. And it was a title, I believe it was a title defense for Natsupoi and Sayori Ano, and they were having a great tag run this entire year, and it only got cut short because of injury. But nonetheless, a great match from these 4 women of Stardom.
I think it's interesting that earlier in the list you said that this year was a sort of a rocky year for tag team wrestling. So good on Stardom for giving you your fix, sir.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know. Like I said, it was a various reasons. It varied by company, but yeah, for whatever reason, tag team wrestling was not a highlight from the year.
Nor a priority for a lot of places, right?
Yeah.
You got MJF holding one tag team belt hostage. You got WWE not knowing whether it wants to split the 2 belts up into one or what.
Yeah.
So awesome. I love to hear it that the ladies of Stardom stepping up.
Yeah, and don't go mentioning whatever's going on in New Japan's tag scene with the tag league and all that.
I can't get into El Phantasmo and Hikuleo. It's weird, and I want El Phantasmo to be on his own and rude.
Yeah, and it's not to say any bad things about the various competitors, but let's not talk about the fall of AEW's tag division. A lot of people wanted those trios titles, and now look at what's happened to the tag division because of it.
There's a plane just coming down.
And not to change the topic of this episode, but sir, the one thing that angers me the most is the revisionist history that's taking place. Because if you, I don't know if you remember last year, but when Swerve and Our Glory were champions, you know, or like when they got the opportunity and they beat the Bucks, all anyone could talk about was FTR's number one in the rankings. They haven't gotten a tag title like this and this, and it completely overshadowed their run and the run the Acclaim were having towards the end of the year, and like that whole story between those two tag teams. And now all I see from people is talking about, take me back to the 2022 tag division and scene. Look at these matches. Look at how great these teams were. And I'm just like, you weren't appreciating it in the moment. You don't get to complain and ask to go back. You're revising your opinions. All you guys could think about was one sole tag team who already had 3 other sets of belts.
Jack is rolling up his cosmic newspaper and hitting the world on its nose going, no, no. Bad IWC. Jack, we're halfway through both our lists. How many minutes do we have left in this episode?
13.
What do you think we should do? Should we rattle off number 5, or should we split it right down the middle?
I say we split it right down the middle just to keep the continuity going of each previous list. I don't know what it is about this year, but we got through our top 5, or our 10 through 6 is a lot quicker.
You know, I don't know. I mean, maybe we're just getting better at this thing, you know?
Yeah. Or, you know, no, let's continue the continuity, because a part of me was going to say maybe we continue, but I don't want that awkward split of like, here's 10 through 4, and then this is 3 through 1. You know, I think I'd like a nice even split.
Alrighty.
All right. Thank you all for joining for this episode. Tune into part 2 where you get our top 5, and trust me, there's a lot of great stuff there.